Nic.
Steve.
In today's podcast, we're going to learn all about Alzheimer's disease. That's that old German scientist who discovered Alzheimer's disease. It's plaques in the brain. Everyone thinks it's doom and gloom, but today we've got some real solutions that can really help the brain. Natural medicines, dietary advice, herbal medicines, everything to do with Alzheimer's and how to prevent it.
So we are talking about Alzheimer's disease today, Steve.
Wow. Well, that's it. You're doomed, aren't you? Nothing you do about it. You just hope you don't get it. Is that what we're going to talk about?
No, not entirely true. Well, if you have Alzheimer's, unfortunately, there is no known cure at this point in time, but there is a lot of things you can do to minimise your risk.
That's a good way to put it, minimise risk.
Yeah, and it's not an uncommon disease. So, and there's a lot more of it. It's becoming a lot more prevalent. And I think a lot of our modern life is really contributing to this. So
absolutely. We've got data showing that. And we've got things that, so if you turn off halfway through this podcast, you're going to miss all the things that we can do to treat it, prevent it, and basically reverse some of the mild cognitive impairments, because there's some great herbs, there's lots of research, there's things you eat that can drive Alzheimer's, there's things you can eat to protect against Alzheimer's. Yep. So you can, and the great thing is about all this is plenty of research. Like, as I said, for those who are listening, I've got papers that are piled up in front of me,
tables full.
Medical literature on it, and simple things you can do to help your brain and minimise the risk of Alzheimer's disease. 250 Australians are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Isn't that scary?
That's like probably 50 in Queensland every single day. Oh, you've got Alzheimer's. And you got to remember, they don't just make this stuff up.
No.
You can do PET scans, which is positron emissions tomography. So they look at the brain and you can see changes in the brain. And it's funny because these changes, these plaques and all these neurofibrillary tangles, it was first discovered in 1905.
Yeah, by who, Steve?
Oh, gee, what's his name?
If you're doing a test, this would be hard to remember.
Yeah. Alois Alzheimer. Now, you're German, so you can probably pronounce it better than I can.
Yeah, no. Alzheimer's.
No, you can't. Alzheimer's, yeah. And it's 1905, and he had a patient, a 50-year-old woman, and she developed a terrible type of dementia at the age of 50. And she just declined. Now, of course, back then, no one had heard of Alzheimer's except the dude. I've got a photo of him.
You do have a photo.
I've got a photo of the guy. I've tracked down a photo. Now, for those who are watching, there he is. I've got my finger on it there.
Yeah.
And there's meat. And but yeah, this guy, Alzheimer, was absolutely phenomenal. And he actually got the brain of the woman when she passed, obviously. She was kind of using it before he was a famous histopathologist. So what histopathology do is they look at things under microscopes, cells, and back then microscopes were relatively new. Anyway, so he got it, sliced the brain up and found all these plaques and everything inside this brain. And it's like wow. So he was the first to say this is a disease of the brain and it's to do with all these plaques. And these plaques, 80 years on, we're learning that these plaques may not cause it, but it's associated with it and all these sorts of things. But it's actually remarkable, the history of it, and it almost was overlooked. But he just happened to grab this brain. He wanted the brain for research and found these plaques.
Wow.
And now it's one of the most common, 80% of dementias.
80%, yeah, because it's a type of dementia and it is the most common. Obviously, up to 80% of dementias are Alzheimer's. So here's a really scary statistic for you, Steve.
What's that?
That deaths due to dementia, which include Alzheimer's, have increased by 56% in the last decade.
The last decade?
Yeah, 56%. It's huge, isn't it?
What are we doing to our brains?
Well, I think, as I said in the beginning, I think the modern world, dietary factors, sedentary lifestyles, a lot of those type of contributing factors are becoming so prevalent now that I think that could be one reason why it's increasing, perhaps.
Well, it's increasing. Like, you've got to remember 10 years ago, we knew what Alzheimer's was. It wasn't like, down with the Alzheimer 120 years ago where they didn't have any of this. 10 years ago, we still could diagnose it.
Yeah.
The classic features of it, if you do an MRI of the brain, you'll see a shrunken hippocampus and you'll see tangles there. And it's funny because I had an MRI of my brain a few years ago. And it's the bloody first thing I look for with the plaques and everything, and nothing in there.
Nothing.
Hippocampus
Nothing
was good volume. Nothing in there. Completely vacant. Thick skull, nothing in there. Let's talk about it. What basically is it? What's the pathophysiology of it?
So it's it's a general term for decline in mental ability severe enough to interfere with daily life.
Right. Okay, so as we get old, we slow down, the brain's not as fast as it used to be or whatever. That's just general dementia. We're not really talking about that. We're talking about Alzheimer's, which is a real impact in your quality of life. So this is savage. There's a few key symptoms you can get with Alzheimer's that distinguish it from other types of Alzheimer's, dementias.
And this is the hard thing with Alzheimer's, because there is initially no symptoms. And so by the time there's symptoms developing, generally the disease is progressed to a certain point, and then it becomes harder to reverse. Yeah. So that's the tricky thing. But some of the really early signs can be memory loss. So, someone says, I forgot someone's birthday, or, I forgot some really information that you would just think every day is really normal for you. And then difficult finding words. Yeah, so difficult. So some people are like, I just can't think of the word. Yeah. Yeah, so that can just be two of the earlier symptoms, but by that stage there could all well be a little bit of progression of the condition. But they're also signs of general aging. They are. So it's kind of can be hard to distinguish.
There's parts of the brain called Broca's area and Wernicke's area. They're named after Broca and Wernicke. Love that. I love it. I love how these things, they name them after themselves. And Broca area is all about language formation. So if you say, what colour is that? People, if they got a Broca's aphasia, they'll go, that colour is, and they can't think of the word. And so that's part of the cerebral cortex, which is the part that's affected by Alzheimer's. So cortex means outside of. Yeah. So you got three general layers of your brain. The outside is that higher thinking, the languaging and all that sort of stuff. The midbrain is all about, your sort of drive, your passions, and the inner part is about keeping your heart going and breathing. So the outside is the higher thinking, and humans have a lot of that cortex. So Alzheimer's is probably found in other animals, but nowhere near as much. And, of course, other animals don't live as long.
And how would we know? Like, really, we're not running around and testing every animal.
I know. How would you know German Shepherd's got Alzheimer's? They're crazy
German
anyway.
Wouldn't get Alzheimer's. They're smart. No, they're crazy and smart.
They are crazy.
Yeah. So, and then obviously as the disease progresses, you then present with a lot more symptoms, which obviously by the time you get to this stage, there is probably some significant progression. But challenges in planning or problem solving.
Right, and that's how you test for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so things like following a recipe or taking a lot longer to do something that they used to do fairly easily, or paying household chores and bills and things like that, that becomes quite difficult. Difficulty in organising themselves. So, getting your day going and organising your day, that can be part of that. Difficult completing familiar tasks, so driving to a location that you always drive to and then forgetting how to get there, or going grocery shopping and sort of not recognising what is it that you generally buy, things like that. Confusion with time or places, so they forgot how they got somewhere.
It's funny, like we all have these sort of brain snaps where you walk into a room and you go, why am I up here? Oh, that's right. Yeah. And that happens to me a bit, but Alzheimer's is when you do that regularly for things that you are, and one of the tests for it, we used to mention problem solving, is counting backwards from 100 by 7. Yeah, so you remember that from a previous podcast.
So you just minus 10 and add 3 is really easy.
But that's problem solving. Yeah. And that's a simple problem solving. But if you've got Alzheimer's, even if you're bad at maths, you can still go, all right, so I'll count backwards. No, if you wanted to. Yeah. But also that's one of the tests. And also drawing something.
Oh, okay.
Drawing a clock, for example, at 5 p.m. or something, and that's another test. So there's all these cognitive tests, but to really find out if you've got Alzheimer's, there's scans of your brain, and there is a new blood test coming out.
Is there? Yep. See, that I didn't know. You didn't tell me that, Steve.
It hasn't got a name, but they've linked a protein, and it was published 2 weeks ago, and it's about 90% accurate.
Wow, that's.
But it's don't go to your GP; they won't have heard about it. No. It's all in the research things, but the fact that you can. Let's say, because say your mind's fading. It could be Alzheimer's, but it could be just the fact that your mind's fading.
So what are some of the possible progressive drivers, Steve?
Oh, now this is interesting. I've got a heap here, but I'm going to randomly go them in no particular order. So I haven't really, but there's so many. Here's one I found interesting in the Journal of Preventive Alzheimer's Disease.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sounds like a good journal.
Good journal. Basically, and I'm just going to read the conclusion. Exposure to secondhand smoke may be associated with increased risk of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and stroke.
Yeah, and we were just saying before we came into the podcast, I mean, we're of the generation that grew up with a lot of parents that smoked and everything, and people would smoke indoors and, you know, you'd go into the house or you go somewhere and it's just smoke everywhere. Yep. So we were really exposed to it.
Isn't that scary? And this was a study and they did it. It's a prospective study. So they followed these people, or they questioned them and said, were you exposed? Yes. What's your chances? They followed them for 31 years and they basically found that the hazard ratio, which is HR, was over 300% increased risk.
Oh, goodness.
That's huge, isn't it?
You are in trouble.
Now, smoking is bad for your brain. I didn't even put that in there because I thought this would be more shock value.
Well, I think we know that smoking is bad for the brain and many other things.
So isn't that scary?
That's actually really scary because, as I said, we're a generation that grew up with smokers, you know, indoor smoking and all that sort of thing. So,
let's say you grew up, I don't know, drinking soft drink or having lots of sweets.
Which, again, our generation as kids probably did. This generation do, that's for sure.
I never smoked, but I was a passive smoker and I ate a lot of sweets as a kid. Shocking amount of sweets. But if you had a lot of fructose, and that can be from even lots of fruit juice or Coke, you know, with the high fructose corn syrup, you increase the rates of dementia by 60%.
And, you know, in this day and age, there's a lot of people that drink a lot of soft drink.
And this is a Framingham study, so it's a big study. It's been quite a famous one, published in the Journal of Prevention of Alzheimer's Disease 2023. And the conclusion was fructose consumption was associated with higher risk of all-cause dementia and Alzheimer's dementia. So Alzheimer's and dementia. Geez. Well, what are some of the dangerous things you've got to watch out for so as we don't get Alzheimer's? Like what are some of the risk factors, comorbidities, all those sort of stuff?
Okay, so here's one that we probably can't really do much about, Steve.
What's that? I can do everything about anything.
Aging.
Oh, I can't.
Can't really do much about that. I mean, can't really do much about that. Particularly, you know, over 65, it can start to have this impact. So far. Yeah, 65 seems to be the big cutoff thing. I was reading all the studies there. It does, 65. Genetics, as we said, so up to 70% of Alzheimer's cases were related to genetic factors. As we said, doesn't necessarily mean you can get it. You're going to get it. Epigenetics comes into play. Environmental factors.
Oh, this is huge.
Yeah, so
there's so many environmental factors. I've got a chart here I printed out. And it was just one page of a paper that says, here's some of the environmental factors. And it just went on and on forever. I couldn't believe it. Oh, here it is. One side's got the red, which is the risk factors, and one side's the green is what you should do. So, you know, the first one here you're going to love is physical activity.
Yep.
It's highly protective.
Yeah. This
is published in the Resilience and Prevention of Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementias by Muscular. So that was a paper published in the Annals of Frontiers of Neurology.
Love it.
Good paper.
Great paper.
So also cognitive activity and cognitive inactivity. So that's about keeping your brain going.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I don't know if I've got that one in there. But, yes, and it's about learning new things.
Yep.
And it's interesting. So it's not even like, you know, so say, I'm always just reading research papers and doing all that research for my job. But it's even doing that can be considered the same type of thing. So you have to do completely different things.
Yep.
So learning comes into play. So learning is a really strong, deterrent of this condition. And doing different things.
Yeah.
So even like, you know, people, there used to be a thing a while ago, someone said, get up and do everything with the opposite hand.
Oh, God.
For the day. So clean your teeth with the opposite hand, you know.
Play guitar, I can't even.
Yeah. Like, you know, people they have the same way of doing everything. So completely flip it. Even driving, and people drive the same way to work. Go a different way because it means that it makes your brain think.
Yeah.
And so that's actually really important is to do a variety of different things every day.
Yeah.
and that people do, the Wordle and all those sort of
my
brain
mother does
games.
Wordle.
Yeah. But they see, even with that, you're doing the same, that's great to start, but then you're doing the same thing every day. So you have to completely do different things. And it's the same with the exercise as well.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. So some people get in there, and I was actually the same. And actually, in the last month, I've completely changed up my training, and it's fun now because I'm doing completely different things. But people just get in their lane and they go in there and they do their standard workout, or they go for their run every day, or they swim every day. But change it up completely. Do different things. Challenge your body. You need to do that to create new neural pathways and all that sort of thing. So so it's really important to do a variety of different things, exercise wise, reading things. Go home tomorrow. Get up in the morning. Do everything with your non-dominant hand. And
I've got one that's a little. I'm going to quickly, but a healthy diet compared to unhealthy diet. Now they've listed, they've got pictures of fish here. It's a healthy diet, so that's omega-3s.
Definitely omega-3s we're going to talk about.
And B12.
Yes, and we're going to talk about, I think we said that, we're going to talk about nutrients, herbs and things that can be really helpful. Omega's definitely a big part of that. But nutrition, obviously a high sugar diet, it's highly processed. That's we all know that.
Shocking.
And it's really funny because all the things we talk about and all these podcasts and the conditions we talk about and, diseases, the underpinning preventative or, modifiable risk factors are exercise, nutrition, stress management and sleep. And that just is a running theme through all of these conditions. So it just goes to show that these foundations are so important for overall health as a baseline before you even think about all the other hacks and things that people like to try and find out to make things better. So, so those 4 pillars really are.
I mean, there's a few others here. This thing you mentioned, that, but also social networking.
Yes, that's actually a really significant one. So they say things like, playing tennis or team sports and things can be really great for the brain. 1, because you're exercising. 2, because you're thinking. And 3, because it's a team sport. There's that community, social aspect. So you're getting all of it in one thing.
Great.
Yeah, people who are lonely and very isolated can be much more predisposed to this.
Shocking.
Yeah.
God, I think it's a terrible thing.
Yeah. So, so environmental factors is really, really significant.
I want to ask you about infections.
Infections.
Yeah, because there's microbial infections that can increase the risk of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, so microbial infections. So infections can infiltrate the central nervous system,
Steve,
and trigger neuroinflammation through the activation of astrocytes, microglia, peripheral macrophages, and T cells in the brain.
Wow.
So these are immune responses that are designed to protect the brain, but they can, like anything, do harm as well if there's, if they're hyper responding or and overexposed. So any sort of pathogenic infection, really can be detrimental as well. So,
well, even people who have had the flu or cold or bad cold, and you get this brain haze where you just can't think,
brain fog, and
and it's like, and luckily it goes away. But imagine living with that with Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
you have the constant activation of the brain. Yeah. And you're just completely in brain fog. While we're on the pathogens and microbes, what about dental work?
Yeah, oral health can be a contributing factor to so many different conditions, or cardiovascular. And that's where the sort of connection when we talk about oral health and dental plaque and things like that, and bacteria that can actually cause cardiovascular issues.
It does.
Very similar, has a very similar effect on the brain. So there's a bidirectional link between oral health and dementia, with changes to the oral environment that can drive the cognitive decline.
God. So, I mean, you could have terrible teeth because chronic inflammation in the brain. It's like having a flu all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
And what about the microbiome? That's got to have something to do with it.
Yeah, this is a huge one, and we've talked about the gut-brain axis so many times, and whatever's going on in the gut, can create a lot of issues with cognitive function, brain fog, all of that sort of thing. This is something that I sort of see a lot, and I see a lot of clients with brain fog. It's really, really common. to see with brain fog. And those LPS, so the production of LPS.
Lipopolysaccharides
in the gut. So there's a particular bacteria that will produce LPS. This can cross the blood-brain barrier that we spoke about earlier. And it's highly inflammatory.
Very.
So anything, got any dysbiosis and overgrowth of particular LPS-producing bacteria or any other inflammatory microbes for that matter, can have a significantly detrimental impact on the brain if it does get through and damages that blood-brain barrier. Obviously we produce neurotransmitters in our gut as well, and then the vagus nerve sort of sends the signals up and back through the brain to the brain and from the gut. So that can impact that neurotransmitter production. Really common, I think. I think because the prevalence is getting more and more, this might be one reason because there's so many gut issues.
Oh, yeah.
Poor diet, high stress, all of that sort of thing we've talked about with gut issues before. And then the environmental factors. We're living in a polluted world. If you're living in a city, sorry if you live in a city, I don't anymore. I could not go back to a city.
Is the Gold Coast a city? It is.
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah. But we're breathing in all this polluted air every day. Our food, has pesticides. We have heavy metals coming in. We have so many different pollutants. So I think the gut stuff and the environmental factors are probably, possibly, in my mind, a really strong contributing factor to the increase in the
I totally agree. I mean, it's something that those genes that we talk about as being the baddies, they were around in 1905.
That's right, yeah.
And 1805 and 1605. Their genes don't change much.
No.
Really don't change much.
No.
And they were not as much of a problem back then because dementia was described many, many years ago. Hippocrates described it. I went through the history and I was going to talk about it. I thought, not all that history. But in the 1800s when Alzheimer's was first, quote, described, it was a specific type of dementia called presbyophrenia, which is a type
Say that 3 times.
presbyophrenia. It's a weird one, and it's an original concept. And have listened to this is a paper from many years ago, and they discovered it, and it actually it was discovered by they thought it to be a form of Korsakoff psychosis, which is vitamin B1 deficiency from drinking, a dementia in terms of impaired cognition, cortical symptomatology, so that's along with Alzheimer's, and neuropathological changes, and the symptoms were delirious states, manic illness in late life, or a combination of cerebrovascular disease and senile dementia. And it's sort of like, the first paper ever published on Alzheimer's said Alzheimer's disease and that in brackets. So they linked to both.
Yeah, wow.
And so, this has been around for a while, but nowhere near the prevalence we've got now.
Exactly.
Something's changed.
Something's changed, yeah. I just think the modern world.
Now, you're going to blame the liver now, aren't you?
Yeah, well,
naturopath always blames the liver.
I could well blame the liver. And he actually, going back to the gut, here's a really kind of scary kind of connection as well. There was a population-based cohort study that found patients with inflammatory bowel disease are predisposed to cognitive decline and dementia with early onset in the general population. So, inflammatory bowel disease is coming back to that gut dysfunction again. Yeah. So, I mean, it just comes back to that whole, the liver, the gut, the gallbladder, the pancreas, all that sort of thing come into play. They're all linked. So any sort of dysfunction, and then obviously the gut-brain barrier, which is connected to all those digestive organs, there's going to be a connection.
Absolutely.
So, if you have any liver issues,
all right. Well,
you can see changes in personality when someone has a liver issue, let me tell you.
Definitely.
Anger,
and
irritation.
And in Chinese medicine, the liver is associated with the emotion anger.
It is.
And what other diseases are associated with this terrible Alzheimer's?
Well, obesity, we talked about. So obesity, type 3 diabetes.
That's true. And there's another mechanism too. Men with lower testosterone levels have an increased risk of a dementia, as well as women.
Yeah, right.
So I should say
women with low testosterone as well, right?
So very interesting, especially if you're apolipoprotein E4 positive. So testosterone helps get clear the beta amyloid plaques. So they've used it with some success, testosterone replacement therapy for men, but it's a little bit premature. I was going to bring a paper in about that, but it's premature research at the moment, but it's a possibility. What else? Nick? What else?
Cardiovascular disease.
Oh,
we kind of know that there's, that's been probably well known for a while, the association, relationship between Alzheimer's and cardiovascular. Yeah, they have common molecular mechanisms of emergence, Steve.
They do. You've got one here about the little strokes or TIAs.
Yeah, stroke.
That blocks the blood and brain, and that causes dementia, and Alzheimer's and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And I want to ask you about a mood disorder. What about depression?
Yes.
Depression is a really interesting disease.
It's a really interesting one.
But it's interesting in a bad way in this case.
In a bad way, yeah. There definitely found a link between depression and cognitive decline. Oh my God, I can't talk. Oh no, I've got dementia. So there's a lot of evidence to show that depression is associated with more than a 2-fold increase in dementia.
That's a bit
risk.
high, isn't it?
Yeah. So there are some studies, Steve,
yes,
to suggest that there is a 20 to 25% chance of a major depressive episode in Alzheimer's disease, which is really interesting because a lot of, people with Alzheimer's, obviously depression is a huge part of that.
Sure.
So, both ways. But yeah, depression can be quite a strong risk factor, major depression, and even 20 to 30% chance for minor depressive episodes as well.
It's scary.
It's really scary.
Scary, and things we do every day. What about having a few drinks?
No, this one's interesting. Alcohol.
Yeah, what about that?
This is interesting. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because they have found that, yes, alcohol consumption can be a contributing factor,
right.
possible risk factor.
Yep.
But they also said that alcohol use and then people that don't have alcohol at all can also be a risk factor.
That's me. That's us.
And that's us, right?
That's us.
But this is my theory on that.
Oh, your theory, okay.
Because alcohol is a neurotoxin, right?
Yes,
so I don't think it's the alcohol that has the protective element there if you're having a moderate amount of alcohol. So I think they said I think the bar is high alcohol consumption is over, get this, I think it's 12 or 14 drinks a week, which I know a lot of people that
There's
drink
a lot of
people
who have that.
Yeah, so there's some animal studies that show prolonged alcohol intake alters different areas of the brain via impaired cholinergic neurotransmission, increased pro-inflammatory cytokines and microglial activation.
Jeez, don't want that.
So alcohol, sorry people, that's
Shock it.
not good.
Yeah, it's a shocking substance and
it's terrible.
Very bad for
It's terrible.
it's bad for your gut and everything too.
So many things.
It's a real. Australia are very. What are we? We sort of.
We're a drinking culture.
We're a drinking culture. It's like having a few beers at night is nothing. No one would think twice about that.
But yeah,
but it helps you sleep. Drinking, doesn't it?
Oh. Only if you drink so much that you pass out. Otherwise, no, it can be quite disruptive to your sleep.
It can be, but how does sleep affect Alzheimer's?
Oh, sleepless nights, yeah. So up to 40% of people with Alzheimer's disease have sleep disorders. I did like that too. So, yeah, some of the most common being, Steve, very early risers.
Oh, shit.
I sometimes get emails from Steve at like 3:50, 3:45 in the morning.
It's usually just rude pictures at that time of day, isn't it?
Yeah, Instagram videos. Sends me Instagram videos of things.
We do.
Funny videos. So, yeah, anyway, we digress.
That's interesting. Yeah, we digress, but that's interesting.
Daytime sleepiness as well can be another
shit.
Yeah, connection there.
Yep.
Yeah, so a bidirectional relationship.
Yes.
They found between inadequate sleep and autism.
Autism?
And Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
Research shows defects leading to greater buildup of amyloid and hyperphosphorylated tau protein.
Ooh, I love those tau proteins. No, I hate those tau proteins. It's interesting because when you sleep, you activate, and this is going to sound like I'm mispromoting it, but the glymphatic system.
Yeah, glymphatic.
Not the lymphatic system. There's a system in your brain that clears your brain.
Yeah.
And when you get deep sound sleep, yeah. So it's the glymphatic system, if you want to Google that, people playing along at home. Yeah. And that'll tell you. We did a podcast on it a few years ago.
Yeah.
Just before
the glymphatic system. Maybe.
Really interesting stuff that when you sleep, you get, a beautiful flushing of your brain.
So many things, yeah. Here's an interesting one that you may not think that could be a contributing factor.
As long as it doesn't relate to me, I'm happy.
Well, that's true. Well, I don't know. Maybe it does, Steve. I don't know. Hearing loss.
It relates to me.
Have you got some hearing loss?
Well, yeah, we'll have because I played music for 50 billion years.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so midlife hearing impairment, case in point.
Picture of me, midlife, yep.
Midlife. So it's been associated with greater temporal lobe volume loss.
Oh, shit.
Including in the hippocampus and entorhinal cortex.
That's the outside part of it, yep.
Yeah.
The hippocampus is the memory part.
Yeah. So there was a cross-sectional study of 6,451 people with the mean age of 59. Oh, yeah, pretty close. That discovered a decrease in cognition with every 10 decibel reduction in hearing.
Shit.
So even subclinical levels of hearing loss.
Yeah,
So
that's probably me.
That's really scary, isn't it? And here's one that I haven't actually put in here, but I did read a little bit about it, is vision loss as well.
Oh, that's where I wear my glasses looking at this, yeah.
I know. So, and this comes back to the brain, how the brain works. So, visual acuity and hearing and all that sort of stuff. So if you take away some of those, one or two of those senses, it's going to impact the brain somewhat.
Jeez.
And they're saying that with vision loss, which I have to say from a personal perspective, I don't really fully buy it because my mum can't see. And she also wears hearing aids now because of her
Really?
job. She got industrial deafness, yeah. I know, poor mum. So
what was her job that made her deaf?
she was a telephonist. So there was a very high-pitched noise in the earpiece all the time, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. But she's sharp as a tack, so I don't know. But they do say, that the vision loss can, or, impaired vision can be a factor as well. So anything, that's because that's sending messages to the brain.
Yep.
Your hearing does, your vision does. So if you have any hearing impairment at all and haven't addressed it, and same with vision, it might could be a little bit there. I wear glasses because I refuse to go up a prescription because I'm like, no, my eyes are fine.
By the way, you've used some of my glasses before, and they've
and Steve does
better than the ones you've
print
got.
out large print sometimes.
I do that.
But that's from I stare at screens all day, so that's why my vision's gone. Medications.
Oh, luckily I don't take too many medications, but what are some of the worst offenders?
So tricyclic antidepressants.
Right. So tricyclic antidepressants, they're like
anticholinergic drugs.
Yep, anticholinergic ones, yeah.
Anti-Parkinson drugs. So these are all anticholinergics, antipsychotics, anti-epileptic drugs, benzodiazepines.
So sleeping tablets and mood, like lithiums. Oh, not lithium, sorry. But benzos are like temazepams and those sorts of things, sleeping tablets. Yep. But also, Valium is a benzo. So, wow. Okay.
And proton pump inhibiting medications. So
they're the antacids. We did a big podcast on them.
Those, yeah.
Medications, Nick. There's some that actually prevent Alzheimer's.
There are some that can possibly prevent Alzheimer's. So calcium channel blocking medications.
Wow.
Angiotensin receptor blockers, antihypertensives. Mm-hmm. So they do say that some of these protective mechanisms may wear off after a little bit of time. So, but initially, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs,
all right,
which we did touch on.
So good for your brain, ruin your kidneys. Good.
That's right, and your gut.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a drug now called ketorolac, a very common anti-inflammatory, been around forever. They inject it now, but if you take it orally, you're not allowed to take it more than 6 days or it destroys your kidneys. 6 days.
It's a point of it then. Anyway.
Yeah, shocking. It's good. They give an IM injection for people with migraines. It's one of the best effective, just single dose, 30 milligrams. It's one of the most effective things you can do for migraines.
There you go.
But, by the way, if you've got migraines, it increases the risk of vascular dementia.
It does, yeah. Steve.
Damn. All right. So what do we do? What sort of blood tests or anything else we can do to there is a blood test that's in.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's might be.
They're measuring a protein in the blood. It hasn't got a name, hasn't got a blood test. Don't go to your doctor now, but there is a test that's been published in neurology about 2 weeks ago now, so probably 4 weeks when this comes out, that showed that it is about 90% accurate for predicting Alzheimer's disease. So huge breakthrough. But the philosophical question is, okay, you're getting Alzheimer's, what do you do about it and all that sort of stuff. And we're going to get to what you can do about it. But
yeah, definitely.
But what are some of the blood tests now you can do about it?
I guess if you're looking at, pathology testing and investigations, you'd sort of be looking at the underlying health issues, so inflammatory markers and things like that, as we talked about. Your blood sugar level, so your fasting glucose, your HbA1c, which is kind of your 3-month sort of view of your blood glucose
all about levels. Sugars here. You see this?
Sugars.
Very interesting.
Yeah, all your sugars. Your iron studies are there for the inflammatory factor as well, because you can tell a lot about inflammation.
Correct, yeah.
Electrolyte balance, kidney and liver function, vitamin B12, folates, copper, zinc ratios, your red blood cell health, magnesium, vitamin D, homocysteine. Really.
It's a neurotoxin, yeah.
Yeah. Inflammatory markers like your CRP, high sensitive CRP, your ESRs.
Erythrocyte sedimentary rate, yep.
Yeah, a metabolic panel. So, your thyroid, your lipid markers, all of that sort of thing. And then obviously genome testing, so ApoE genotype.
Yep,
so you can
that's
test
right.
For that.
Well, you want to be the 3, by the way, if you're wondering about that. The 2 is not good and the 4 is not good.
I want to be a 4 or 2,
Odd number. All right.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So we can do some basic tests and all that sort of stuff. Let's talk about the prevention and treatment. Like, okay, so let's say I'm worried about getting Alzheimer's. Like, I think we all are a little bit.
Yeah.
Some of us are like this and some of us are like this.
Yeah.
So what sort of things can we do to prevent it to start with?
Prevention. Nutrition,
yes,
obviously is a huge one.
Sugars, get rid of the sugars.
Get rid of the sugars. So even ketogenic diets, I guess, to a degree. So obviously, they can be quite good. Obviously, processed foods, all the things that we always talk about. Just stick to a whole foods diet.
No fructose.
No fructose.
Or in fruit a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of fruit's good.
Blueberries are very good for your brain.
They are, and we're actually going to recording a brain podcast tomorrow. And we've got some foods in there that are quite cool. So lots of sugars, so that produce ages, Steve.
Advanced glycosylated. Yeah.
You
want to say it?
Advanced glycosylated end products.
Yep.
So anything that's the heating of the food and the browning of the food and all that sort of stuff, frying, radiation.
Yep.
That can that's been connected to Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
So what about some nutrients and some
herbs,
and things like that?
Go for it, because I've got papers on all this, and I've also got papers here on drugs that are in the pipeline, but we'll get to that later.
Excellent, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with one that we've just touched on already. We touched on a little bit through there, was omega-3 fatty acids, Steve. Like, what are they not good for, I think?
Just so much stuff.
Yeah, so much stuff. So in vitro and vivo findings demonstrate attenuation of Alzheimer's disease pathologies, including mitochondrial impairment, beta amyloid accumulation, neuroinflammation, neuronal loss, and hippocampal neurogenesis can all be attenuated by omega-3 fatty acids. So 3 to 4 grams of EPA DHA a day.
3 or 4 caps.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, I generally will prescribe on the higher end. Some people may take 1 to 2 grams a day. I generally prescribe 3 to 4 grams a day. But so good, so good for so many things. But definitely for any, neural stuff, really good.
Good for your heart and everything else too.
So
joints, everything.
Yeah, everything.
There's paper on that, actually. I've got it sort in front of me. It's titled The Relationship, love this long title, sorry. The Relationship of Omega-3 Fatty Acids with Dementia and Cognitive Decline, Evidence from prospective cohort studies of supplementation, dietary intake and blood markers, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Basically says fish oil is really good for your brain, prevents dementias, and that's published in 2023.
Yeah, exactly. And even, that's the fatty fish in your diet. But then there's the factor of the heavy metals. Yep. But there was some studies, and I didn't bring the studies in with me, that showed that even with the fish that have the heavy metals, people still had healthier brain function, less blood production, all that sort of stuff, than those who weren't having fish in their diet. So the omega-3, is still having a really significant impact. So getting fatty fish in your diet,
and red meat. It's got omega-3s,
Yeah, that's true. Grass-fed meat does as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Curcuminoids, Steve, from turmeric.
Turmeric, they're the orangey stuff.
Yep, really beneficial. So it's been shown to hinder the formation and encourage the breakdown of amyloid plaques.
Now, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Encourage the breakdown of.
Yeah. So that one's a really...
And it's good for you. Turmeric's it's like, we could do a podcast. Say the afternoon podcast was on arthritis. We'd be talking about turmeric till the cows come home.
Yeah. Great for liver as well. And then there's the liver there. It's good for the gut inflammation, obviously, which we talk about the impact with the brain.
Oh, and I mean, we've got some, I've got some drugs here, and some of the major problems with these drugs is they're very bad for the liver and stuff and kidneys. And yet we've got something that's good for the kidneys and the liver and good for your brain and good for your joints and good for your heart.
Good for everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a really good one.
Yep.
Vitamin D.
Yep.
Vitamin D is also really good.
I love it.
For lots of different things. So long-term deficiency, and there's a lot of people who are deficient. I see a lot of people in clinic with deficiencies, particularly down south, or people that don't get outside much.
I'm stealing your thunder here, but the study here says if you're deficient, you're 51% more likely to get Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah. So that's a huge percentage.
Vitamin D is the cheapest, easiest thing.
I mean, look, you can get it from walking outside.
Oh, I get it from
and supplementation's cheap.
going nude in the bush like I do sometimes.
Well, no one needs to know that, Steve.
No one needs to know.
What you do in private?
No, it's not really private, actually.
Yeah, it's even worse. So B12, Steve.
It methylates your homocysteine
That's
back to methionine so you don't get neurotoxicity.
Exactly. Thank you.
Wow. So B12, cyanocobalamin, or there's other names for it, of course, methylcobalamin and all the other cobalamins. So the interesting thing about that is that that's found in animal foods.
Yes.
We're starting to paint a picture here because remember that cholesterol that's only found in animal foods also protects against Alzheimer's disease. So it doesn't mean you've got to eat animal food or you're going to die. It just means you've got to be aware of this stuff and just be aware of the risk factors.
Yeah, and if you're on a plant-based diet, make sure checking your B12 levels and getting you can get plant-based omegas. They don't assimilate as well in the body, but they still have.
So you're talking about gamma-linolenic acid.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, Steve.
Yes.
Curcumin, go back to curcumin. Now, that actually has a similar that can increase your DHA in the brain, right?
It can, because it increases what they call desaturase enzymes, which, as the name suggests, desaturates it to make it more unsaturated.
Yeah. And
that's like the eicosapentaenoic acid, EPA, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. It actually converts the omega-3s, that your essential fatty acids like alpha-linolenic acid, down through to EPA and DHA, and turmeric is great for that.
So there you go. Anyone on a plant-based diet that doesn't do fish oils or anything, or krill oils.
What else you got?
CoQ10.
Oh,
I love CoQ10.
Geez, look at the dose they did in this study. You go broke.
Yeah, that's true. That's a pretty high dose.
400 milligrams
3 times
TDS.
Oh, that actually is quite high.
That's a high dose.
Yeah, I usually do 300 milligrams a day.
And that's
up to 300 milligrams a day.
That's the okay. So that's a lot.
Well, it's anti-inflammatory. It's antioxidant.
It's great. It's good
reduces free radicals. Supports mitochondrial function. Prevents inflammatory signaling pathways. All that sort of thing. So deficiency can be associated with cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, including Alzheimer's disease.
Wow. The next nutrient's even more exciting for me because I take that one.
Acetyl-L-carnitine.
Yes,
acetyl-L-carnitine. So this supports disturbances in the biosynthesis and metabolism of carnitine in Alzheimer's disease patients.
Is very well researched,
Yeah, associated with its pathogenesis. And here we go, choline and phosphatidylcholine, obviously talk about that.
For acetylcholine break.
So required for membrane synthesis and synaptic function maintenance. So really important. Choline from eggs, Steve?
Yes, I do. And you get cholesterol from eggs too.
Yeah, that's right.
Good for your brain.
Vitamin C, vitamin E, both antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, really good for all that sort of thing. We have to whip through these now. Taurine, I love taurine actually.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, stabilizes protein folding, has anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and
osmoregulatory effects.
Yeah.
Is that what you?
Yeah. So it's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and osmoregulatory effects, Steve. Supports calcium homeostasis and central nervous system development. Taurine, so many good things, hypertension, all that sort of thing. Here's one of my favourites. This is one of your favourite compounds, herbs, foods. Pomegranate.
Pomegranate is really good.
Pomegranate.
We got a few of our supplements here. I won't mention with any names.
No, that's true. We do. I use it I'm starting to use it more and more in clinic, actually.
Wow.
So it has high antioxidant activity.
Of course.
Reduce oxidant species reduction and reactive oxidant species reduction, and inhibition of microglial activation.
Yeah.
So, and this is a blocking of the tau protein. Earlier. Hyperphosphorylation, synaptic plasticity maintenance, and inhibition of beta secretase 1. Which you need for the amyloid formation. I love pomegranate. It's really good for the gut. It's just does so many things.
All right, well let's get on some herbs there. Okay, so let's say I want to protect and let's say I've got really early dementia or something. What herbs, what options have we got herbally?
Well, this is probably, one of our favourites around here, I suppose, withania, ashwagandha, however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. It possesses moderate acetylcholine esterase activity, Steve. It's shown to aid memory and cognition, and it inhibits COX-2.
Oh, yeah, that's the inflammatory one.
Yep. It increases brain-derived
neurotrophic factor. That's the one, yeah. BDNF, yep.
And protects against neuronal loss by reversing oxidative stress.
Bloody good for you, eh?
What does withania not do?
It boosts testosterone. That's all I care about.
Great for the adrenals, great for so many things.
But it boosts testosterone.
Yeah, I know, Steve. Yes, Steve. I know it boosts testosterone. Milk thistle, Steve.
Yes.
One of my favourites. Another one of my favourites.
Love it.
Very good for menopausal women, actually.
Is it?
As an aside, yeah.
Don't worry about that.
For bone health, all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So it's demonstrated to improve memory performance, reduction, which is great, obviously, for menopause as well. Reductions in oxidative stress, reduced apoptosis in hippocampus, and increased BDNF.
So you don't want your hippocampus to die. No. And brain-derived neurotrophic factor grows your brain.
That's right.
So it stops it dying and grows it.
Yeah,
and milk thistle. It's like the old days, as the old herbalists, that's for the liver. Don't worry about the brain, but it's great for the brain as well.
It's so good for the brain, good for the bones. It's just so many things.
Oh, yeah.
Saffron, Steve. Tell us all about saffron. One of my favourites.
It's a gorgeous colour. It's sort of, no, it doesn't look like that.
It looks similar.
It's similar. I was going to say it's like my T-shirt I've got on. It's saffron model. Now, saffron's extraordinarily expensive and you only need 30 milligrams a day of it.
Yeah.
But it's really good. And there was a study done, 16-week administration, and it was superior for a placebo with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. So it's actually been tested in Alzheimer's disease, and it was comparable to the drug, Donepezil. So that's interesting. And the way it works is it inhibits acetylcholinesterase. So acetylcholinesterase breaks down acetylcholine. So you get more acetylcholine, got more brain function. Yeah. So it's really good for that. It also reduces the corticosteroid levels. So that's the cortisol. It shrinks your brain, and it reduces all the tau proteins and amyloid beta-oids in the brain. And it also, as a side effect, improves anxiety and depression. And studies also have found it's good for erections too.
Is that written there, Steve?
No, but I know it was from a previous podcast we did. It is.
I don't know if I trust you. All right. Okay. Here's one for you, Steve. That's a classic for the brain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lion's mane.
Lion's mane.
Yeah, lion's mane. Really, really good for cognition, clarity. It's a good nootropic.
And this is like a mushroom thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a medicinal mushroom. Yeah.
We like mushrooms.
We are talking about next podcast is going to be on a medicinal mushrooms.
Nice.
So they've done 3 human clinical trials. So there's 3 human clinical trials that have demonstrated significant improvements in brain pathology, including memory enhancement, cognitive function, and reductions in anxiety and depression.
Wow.
And then there is also looks to be that they could have some neurogenesis enhancing effects.
Grows your brain.
Grows your brain.
It's funny because we've got 3 herbs to go through next, and these are probably 3 of my top favourite.
Yeah, one of them's one of my top.
Oh, yeah. Which is your top?
Gotu kola.
Oh, Gotu kola, yeah.
I love Gotu kola.
You're starting there, yeah.
It's nature's Botox.
Why do you need it? You look gorgeous already,
Maybe
Nic.
it's because I have so much Gotu kola, Steve.
Oh, that's it.
I don't know. No, very good. Very, very good for the skin. Really good. But it's also a good
screw the skin. We're talking about the brain.
We're talking about the brain. Yeah. So it reduces oxidative stress and beta amyloid levels.
Nice.
It's found to promote dendritic growth and mitochondrial health.
Well, that's good.
Improved learning and memory in animal models. Animal model studies, Steve. It modulates several neurotransmitters, including dopamine,
serotonin and noradrenaline.
Exactly.
Nice.
Love it. Oh, and then the other 2. I don't care about the other 2
come on, give me the other 2.
Ginkgo biloba. Who doesn't know about ginkgo biloba?
Ginkgo biloba is probably the most researched one for Alzheimer's, and they really love this one. But what does it do for you, Nic?
Oh, what doesn't it do for you? What doesn't it do for your brain?
Cooks your breakfast, does everything.
It does. So it has benefits on cerebrovascular blood flow and synaptic plasticity, improving memory, learning, and cognitive function. So we all know about that, sort of that increases that blood flow to the brain. That's why it's so good for the brain. So has neuroprotective properties, protects membrane damage caused by free radicals.
Who does free radicals?
really good. And then Bacopa.
Bacopa. Now, here's for those who are playing along at home watching the video, you can see a slide there from a medical paper on Bacopa. Look what it does.
That's a lot of
colours, and there's Brahmi there, a little green plant there, and you see it blocking all this bad stuff. It's really good for the brain, but what does it do? Tell us quickly what it does.
What does it do? So Bacopa, so it improves memory, cognitive function.
Yep.
So it's shown to inhibit lipid peroxidation in the prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and striatum.
Yep.
It's also found to increase cerebral blood flow and increase brain plasticity, Steve. That's pretty cool, isn't it, really?
Well, the studies on this are astronomically good. And I mean, so the take-home message here is the first thing to do is reduce your risks. Stop smoking, get fit, exercise, get social, stop eating things like fructose, avoid smoking and secondhand smoke. And
limit alcohol. All the things we talk about.
Eat fish, get rid of all the crappy sugars out of your diet and measure yourself and make sure you're doing all right. Homocysteine, all this sort of stuff, and get those tests done. Track those things, those tests you said. And so the next point of call for there is, okay, let's say you're starting or someone who's starting, get them on some of these things.
Yes, because it can slow, as we said, there's not really we can't cure it, but you can definitely slow the progression. Yep. But, it's not, I think brain health I think it's becoming more and more, in the spotlight now, but a lot of people don't really think about brain health until it's too late. And they start, or I get clients coming to me and I have a lot of brain fog. I have a lot of memory loss. I have a lot of these things. Don't get to that point. So look after your brain. You don't really feel it. You don't really see it. It's vitally important. So we probably really need to think about it more. Yeah. And if you do a lot of these interventions, then you're a lot less likely to progress to any type of...
I know. Look, just holding this up to the camera again, they're all the drugs that are in production 2024 for Alzheimer's drugs.
Wow.
Now, I mean, there's millions of them there. The ones in the middle of this particular graph is stage 3, so the human trials. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to guess, because the number's too big to count, it's probably 30 drugs in phase 3 clinical trials. And you know what one of them is? Caffeine.
Is it?
That's what I was drinking before.
Oh, I see. I didn't pick that.
Caffeine is great for the brain and particularly for preventing Alzheimer's. Look what it does, Nick. Holding this graph up again. Sorry to the people who are playing online. But look at the mechanisms by which it does. So simple caffeine.
Wow.
It goes on forever.
Wow. Gee, I'm going to start drinking caffeine now then.
Well, I mean, it reduces inflammation, anti-inflammatory. It improves histological picture of brain neurons, increase the number of cholinergic receptors, reduce tau protein, reduce amyloid beta protein. But it just goes on forever. There's probably 10 mechanisms of action. It's also a calcium channel blocker. It regulates calcium, It's GABA antagonism. So really good stuff. So don't overdose on this stuff, you'll die.
Yeah.
But if you have a moderate dose every day, it seems to be beneficial.
There you go.
And it's under clinical trials now.
Well, there you go. There's a fun thing that people don't have to take out of their diet.
Exactly. Yeah, one more good thing. Well, on that positive note, Nick, I think we should love everyone and leave it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great day. We'll see you on next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
FAQs, Steve.
Yes, let's do it.
Today's FAQs. If you have an FAQ, I do this wrong every time. Either put it in the comments or Matt will put the info down. That's all I'm going to say on that. So here's one for you, Steve, from Sam from Adelaide.
Yep.
This is you all over, Steve. Hey, guys, every time I have a protein shake, I get the worst farts. My girlfriend's ready to kick me out of the house because of these protein farts. Don't blame her. Is there any way to prevent this? I don't want to give up my shakes, but the side effects are tough to live with.
Why do you say it's up my alley? Look, all right.
Boy thing.
The reason why most people fart on protein shakes is because they have bloody dairy-based protein shakes, which are not good for humans to have. Humans are not supposed to have dairy. And it's so unpopular. They say, whey is great, all that, blah, blah, blah. Look, the best way to solve this is to have collagen shakes. Now, look, newsflash, we sell collagen and we don't sell dairy. But they're better for your gut. Your gut's made of collagen, so you're not going to react to a collagen that your body's made of.
No,
there's no whey in your body. It's from an animal that's got 4 legs and moves. It's not for humans. Humans can consume collagen because it's in our body. So, and a lot of the reasons why that people don't take collagen is because it's low in branched chains. There are proteins that are fortified with branched chain amino acids. So SAM, you'll still get the growths. If you get the collagens that have added branched-chain amino acids in there, you can add glutamine, you can add other things in there, all benefit your muscles, and you will not break up a relationship over it.
That's right. And some people might say, but dairy's fine. I have dairy and no problem. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if Sam's having excessive gas,
Yes.
then that's a clue that it's not really working well for his gut microbiome. A little bit of gas is normal, but excessive gas is an indication that there is a reaction in the body with the microbes. So it might not be the right thing for Sam. So if it is a whey-based shake, Sam, then maybe try a collagen or the pea-based shake. So if it's a plant-based shake, sometimes the pea can also be very hard to digest and can cause a lot of gas. So have a look at what the base is. And
I get bloated on dairy, but when I have collagen, no problem.
No, I'm good with collagen.
Good. That's a good one, Sam. Thanks for that.
Cool.
All right, Nick. It says, hey, guys, I got one for you. Love the podcast, especially Steve. He's a legend. Oh, didn't say that. And have been a follower of ATP for years. Anyway, here goes. I've been battling athlete's foot for what feels like forever. I've tried all the creams, powder, sprays, but just keep coming back no matter what I do. I've tried different shoes, socks, everything in capitals. I'm willing to try anything. What would you guys suggest? That's Dean from Mackay, a sweaty place of the world. Mackay,
a sweaty place of the world.
Warm part of the world.
Yeah.
Lovely part of the world.
Yeah.
But Nick, what do you do about athlete's foot?
Well, it's generally a fungal issue. So, and I usually find that if you have that localized fungal, it can be more systemic.
Right.
So there could be some candida growing elsewhere in Dean's body.
Yep.
So topical powders are great for symptom to reduce the symptom of it, and they can make it go away for a while and then it'll come back again. Yeah. And if it continues to come back, then it's something that's coming from inside out. So I'd be looking at some fungal treatments.
Yes.
So one, dietary-wise, reducing all your sugars and your refined carbohydrates is really important. And then things that you could possibly try is there's a herb called horopoto.
Oh,
it's a New Zealand herb, really good for fungal infections, candidas.
Yep.
It doesn't impact the microbiome, so it's not going to be killing off the healthy beneficial bugs like maybe oregano oil will, because oregano is good for fungal infections too, but it's very strong on the gut.
We used to use Pau-d'Arco. Is that still around?
Pau-d'Arco. Yes, I don't find that works.
Okay.
Overly well. I mean, in clinic, I haven't seen it work overly well, but you can also add in some Pau-d'Arco tea.
Yeah.
It can't hurt.
Okay.
Berberine is also good, but again, it can have the impact on the microbiome if you're having high doses. So get some horopoto. It's really great for fungal things.
To know.
So give that a crack and see if that helps. Dean?
Excellent, Nick. Thanks for that.
All right. Oh, that was a good one.
All right.
Thank you. Oh,
okay.
Right.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, let's cut that bit out.
Okay.
Sorry, just lost where I was looking. There's a really good video. Sorry, we're starting well. Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay. Neurotic plaques.
Go for it again.
I had to just press. I can't talk. I can't talk. You know what? And then you look at me like that and that makes me laugh.
What did I do? I said a word.
Stop it.
It's my fault. It's my fault. Sorry.
It's your fault. I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is, Steve. That's what it is.
Pressure compared to the people.
I can't. Start it again. No, I'm so tired. Oh, God. Start again. I'm still there. Fucking hell. Oh, I can't read it.
Yeah.
Just cut me out.
Yeah. Cut you out.
Yeah, it's going to be great stuff. So tune in. yeah.